Hi there, my name is Carole and I'm excited today because I have finally achieved something that I've been talking about for a long time. Under my new hashtag, A Different View, I have finally sewed up the long sleeve version of New Look 6216. I have talked about this so often on my channel, especially this view. How many times have I made it? So many. So I'm going to tell you all about my experience with the long sleeve version of my ultimate favourite pattern. So let's backtrack a little. I'm Carole, this is my channel Sew Carole, and I love sewing. So I sew mainly for myself or my family, mainly garments, do venture into other things every now and again. But I do love the big full patterns. I've got indies, and in fact I'm wearing one at the moment, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But I just wanted to set myself a new challenge where I have patterns like this. This pattern, I think I've made 10 or 15 times. I've made the top. I have made the trousers in the past, but I use this as my go-to top pattern. Why have I never tried the long sleeve version? I don't know. But what I wanted to do under my new hashtag, A Different View, is actually challenge myself to try a different view on my favourite tried and true patterns. Because I will just grab this one to make this and say, oh, I'll give that a go sometime, and never do. But now is the time, between now and Christmas, that I'm challenging myself to try it. Now, why haven't I made this before? Well, let's get into that. I suppose I better explain why I love this pattern so much. It's a very simple t-shirt pattern, but you can hack it around to your heart's content, and I have done that. I've made it straight, I've made it the pocket, I've made it all sorts of ways, and I thought I'd just show you the last couple I think I've made this year. This was as it is in the tin, just very basic, grown on sleeve. It has a cuff you can put on, that's optional. I tend to put the cuff on and fold it back. You can't really see it in this fabric, but so that was one version I made this year, and this is an example of a hacked version where I very often split the top and done some collar blocking or used up some scraps. But this one I used this jersey knit, this brodering glaze, and I added a tie to the bottom. So very basic patterns are brilliant to have in your stash because you can switch them about. If you see a fashion that you like, or maybe a new pattern that's come out that's a slight tweak, you need one of these. You need one of these patterns in your life. So when I say I don't know why I hadn't sewn this one before, that's not entirely true, because the pattern itself, the pattern pieces were all cut out because I have tried a couple of times, and there's a real reason why I haven't gone ahead and made it. It was the fact that, as you can see, the top has a grown on sleeve, but also does the long sleeve version. This is all one piece. So if I grab the pattern piece to show you, now I've had this particular pattern for years. So I had cut it out in a size 8, but luckily it is quite oversized. So this is your front, okay? And the back is exactly the same. Now, if I'm making kind of a top like this, mid-length sleeve, probably not long sleeve, but I will order, say, 1m20, 150, and get it easily out of that. This is so fabric hungry, having that, you cannot. So when I make a t-shirt, very often it's cut on the fold, front and back, so you fold the sides in and you can cut a front and the back on sort of one bit of the fabric. Not a chance on this, because that's going to be your width, so you've got to have them stacked, haven't you, one on top of the other. I have taken the photos to show you. So every time I've gone to make this and I've not had more than 1.5 meters of fabric, I know I can't make it. And in my head, that is an extreme waste of fabric. So this has always gone back in the pattern drawer, and I've got a different pattern out. But this time I was determined to give it a try or work my way around it, because when I talked about this recently on my channel, a lot of people said they'd had success with it. So I thought, I need to give it a go. I had some lovely bamboo viscose jersey in just a plain colour, so I thought let's give it a try under a different view. There was no way in 1.5 meters I could get this out. Now, I am never going to buy 2 meters of fabric just to make a t-shirt top. It's just not cost effective. It's not the money, it's the fact it's such a waste of fabric, and you'll have some very odd pieces that you can do nothing with. So as this was a plain fabric, I managed to put one up that way, one up that way, and I created a centre seam down the back, and I will put the photo in. That is the way I could do it, but that would only work for a plain, nothing patterned or certain directional fabric, and of course you do get the seam down the back, but that's okay because it is very similar to what I'm wearing now. So I went ahead and gave it a go. Now I'm wearing right now the Style Arc Fran top, and I'm wearing it for a reason, because the front is very, very similar. As you can see, no sleeves, just all grown on. The difference is the back probably explains it a little bit better. So the front is all one piece, the back is a central piece, and then 2 bits of the back sleeve. Very strange, but I thought I would show you, because obviously if you're not going to have sleeves and sleeves head, you are always going to get some fabric here, and that is what you get. So you're not going to get a perfect fit where it's all nice and neat. So I'm putting that caveat in now, so when you actually see the green one on me, you will realize that that's the nature of the beast. If you haven't got fitted sleeves, you're always going to get some kind of fabric fold. And in fact, if you see that there, you will see they almost kind of warn you in advance you're going to get some folds of fabric. A lot of people don't like grown on sleeves for that reason, but I have to say I'm not particularly worried. It just makes it a bit easier to wear if it's not so tight on you. So I went ahead and made it up in the green fabric. So let me show you. So here we go, and as we're filming this, just coming into autumn, and green is the colour, I'm on trend, and I can't believe that. It was just pure luck. So here we go, obviously very basic in the front. You can see already that even on the mannequin, you've got some, you've got some breezy bits going on here. One thing I forgot to say, obviously, you're going to get a seam down the side of the arm, same as this one. It obviously shows a lot more in a plain fabric, and again, some people don't like that, but I'm not too worried. I'm really not that fussy a person. So you see that. Now down the back, because of the way I cut it, I've got a centre seam, but that's okay. Because it's a plain fabric, I thought I would top stitch it down the back there so it kind of stands out a bit more. And I've used kind of a lighter green to sort of almost emphasize it, that it was meant to be. Now I could probably get away with it easy with some seams here, because you can't even really see a side seam on my arm there. So I am very happy with it. It's a straight hem on the bottom, and I've done quite a deep hem. Did that. It's a bamboo jersey, so it's very floaty, very light, and obviously I'll put some footage in of me wearing it. Now you could, of course, if you don't want to make it with a full-on sleeve and cut it, you could have easily kind of cut that piece off and then added a bottom bit, and in fact that would lend itself to more colour blocking. So you would use this, obviously you could cut that there, allow for seam allowances, and then add a different bottom, and I may well give that a try. I do want to say this is a completely different piece to this one here. It's not the sort of the short version and then the sleeve added. It is completely different shape, and also the neckline is a different shape. It is smaller. Whenever I make this, and whenever I talk about making this, I always warn people this is really wide. So I always pinch in my neck pattern piece either side. Now, I've talked about that quite a lot on my channel, so you'll need to refer back to a video. I'll try and put it in the description box down below where I show in more detail how I actually do that. But I didn't need to do that on this, but because I was a little bit worried about whether I did need to, I measured this against my altered pattern piece. Actually, let me go at that now and I'll show you. That would be much more helpful, wouldn't it? So this is the front of the short sleeve version, and you can see where I have folded in 1 centimetre, and that just brings in that. That's all I do to make the neckline come in a bit. Don't touch the back at all. So that, when I measured that up against the long sleeve version, it was exactly the same. So I knew I wouldn't have to worry about pinching in the neckline or changing that it would work. Very strange why the two are very different and yet it's the same pattern. So I'm really pleased with myself that I actually have made it now. So that's 2 patterns that I've used in the last few weeks where I've talked about making a different view but didn't. I just file it back in the cupboard and that's it. So this is a really fun thing to do, and I hope heavily encourage any of you out there to give other views a try on patterns you have. Now, I've got a lot of patterns with these where you've got tops and trousers and things, so I definitely recommend that. The last one I did, I'll put the link in, was a pair of trousers from a view that I always did the top. So it has been really good because now I know I've done it. Would I make this again? I probably would, but it would have to be the right fabric. There's no way I consider it on a directional because you just need to order so much. You can't even do it where you split the back in 1.5 meters. You can't do it when you split it in half without turning it upside down. So it's got to be something plain, but I wouldn't rule it out, let's put it that way. Thank you so much for joining me in my sewing room today for the New Look 6216 version of a #A-Different View. Come back in a couple of weeks for another one, another view that I've been banging on about, talking about doing, and I've never got round to it. This is the time between now and Christmas, well, kind of now and November, when it's not too busy in the sewing room, where I can get play around with some of these. And obviously, as I said in my previous video, we don't know the future of paper patterns, so let's try and get the most value out of our patterns that we have and see what treasures that we may be holding that we didn't realize. Thank you again. Join me for #Friday Sews, or take a look at my #Fabric Wheel of Fate videos. You're always welcome in my sewing room. Just want to say happy sewing, everybody, and give something new a try.